Welcome to In the Flow, where we explore how marketing leaders leverage operations to eliminate chaos and capture opportunity. I'm Anthony Welgemoed, CEO of Ziflow. Welcome to In the Flow. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by fellow founder and a true force in the industry, Emma Turner. After years of experience in major advertising networks like WPP and Publicis, and a transformative role where Emma built a global in-house creative and production model for Philip Morris, Emma saw a gap in the market. She noticed that brands were great at hiring creative, but often struggled with the operating system to make them successful. So she took the leap and founded IHAR, a consultancy designed to build and optimize in-house creative agencies. Emma is on a mission to perfect the hybrid model where in-house teams and external agencies work in perfect harmony. Emma, welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Great. Thank you for having me. And great introduction. That's very kind, some of those words you mentioned there. So great. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, founder. That sounds quite exciting to be a founder. I always wanted to have my own business. And like you say, it took, obviously, like any business which is coming into the market, there needs to be a need and there needs to be a real insight to be able to found a business. And that's why I set up IHAR, where I really understood, after working in the ad industry for many years, 20 odd years actually, and then going in-house, and really identified there's a lot of brands building in-houses, wanting a great in-house, but a lot of them tend to be set up initially by creatives, because a brand will think, oh, we need an in-house studio, or just get some creatives and they can do all of that. But what's actually critical to building an in-house is obviously the operating model and more the strategic setup rather than just the execution. And for me, having done it at PMI, I realized there was a lot of brands doing this, but how to start well is the backbone to a great successful in-house agency model.
So that's interesting. So before we sort of talk about that in a bit more detail, your background, as you mentioned, is Adland, and I was in London as well during the sort of the 2000s and so on, and the agencies. I mean, London agencies were known for great creative and so on, but you sort of gravitated towards the operations side, and so you went from client services to that where there's more rigor and process. What was it about the operational side that made it interesting for you?
Yeah, and I think like coming into it as a junior account exec, working in my first role in London was JWT, and before that I was in Manchester and I worked in media sales actually. So I'd always been in a role where, especially in the Manchester space, you didn't have layers upon layers of people doing different roles for you. So I turned myself into, yes, I was doing the client services role, but a lot of the time I was doing a bit of strat, a bit of media planning and operations. So I felt I got quite a good 360, rounded as experience. I've been working in smaller agencies and then working in London, working in ad agencies. I was exposed to a lot more rigor, I guess, which really helped me understand the importance of operational excellence. And as you get more senior, you become more and more, I guess, tighter to what the task in hand is. It's not necessarily just about the creative anymore. It's about how do we get to great creative. So naturally, as my job description itself started to change into more of an operational role. And I think unless you've got ops within, your skill set, it's hard to get to great creative, because you need that rigor and you need the process to get to a great creative idea. So I just naturally kind of progressed into an ops position. It wasn't something that I'll put, on my to-do list is to move out of client service into operations. It was just the way I ran a piece of business was like, yeah, here's how to do great creative, but we need to ensure that we've got all the operational processes in place in order to get there. And then as you get a bit more senior, you come a bit more away from the work and you become more rooted in the strategic development and relationship of that client. And like most clients want is rigor and process to ensure there's cost efficiencies, but also there's time efficiencies, because it all will come back to the numbers. And that's where I guess I moved more out of client services into operational management.
Great. And so looking at that Philip Morris experience you had, I mean, you built a global in-house ecosystem there, teams, tech, digital asset management, work management, everything. Now someone who's built, one of the sort of those core tools in the stack, I'm quite fascinated. Like, what was the single biggest operational challenge you saw and solved, in that project? And just talking about that, I think it's like you said, 76 markets that they were in. That's pretty big scale.
Yeah, I think the biggest one with any big global client like that is about change management. You can have the best tools in the world and the best theory, but a lot of it is about bringing people with you and getting people on the journey. So you build an operating model, you build the right tech stack, but then you've got to influence a huge amount of marketeers to explain to them why they need to move into this way of working. Obviously, from a business perspective, it was always back down to like, we want to get to great creative, but we also need to be more cost efficient and time efficient. Now, the marketeers on the other side of the brief who want to say, I want to get to the best work, but in order to do that, you need to build and bring everybody with you. So the change management piece was a huge task for me. It took me quite a long time, really, not just because of the project itself. It was more like the volume and the amount of people that you had to influence. So yeah, that for me was, I guess, the biggest challenge. Was it was fantastic on paper, but then everybody's got to buy into it and realize what's in it for them in order to operate in an in-house world. And also, they've got relationships with existing agency partners. And I wasn't coming in there to try and break down, the scope which was sitting with agency networks. It was more about building an ecosystem, because not all scope sits in-house. Some scope sits with your agency and some sits with the in-house. But it's about building that partnership strategy as opposed to, this is my scope and that's all we do. Otherwise, you create silos. So my vision was always to build a big ecosystem. This is how we all work as one. We do this scope and our agency partners do that scope.
Yeah, so this hybrid model is quite interesting because you've got brands building their in-house creative teams, but still working with the agencies. And I can imagine agencies get a little bit scared of clients building their in-house teams, fearing that they'll lose business. Starting IHAR, you sort of like act as that person in the middle now. So how do you convince both sides that this hybrid approach is actually better for both?
Yeah, I think the in-house as I guess as a sector has been going for quite some time now. Obviously, you look at like Julia, my other half. She was working at Specsavers, and they were doing that a long time ago. I think brands start with, we want to save money and they want to go in-house. They think they're going to do that, but I don't think that's the right metric. It's about making the right work and getting to the brief tighter. And I think with the in-house operating model, you are much deeper part of those conversations. You're at the top table with the CMOs and you're discussing what the business challenge is rather than about what the marketing challenge is. So I think having that hybrid model, you use your in-house team to get to some of those really deep business challenges, which obviously then get turned into creative briefs. But if you put it all in-house, you're going to end up with a lot of people sometimes doing not a lot of work, because you don't need 100% of motion graphic person, or you don't need 100% of a planner all the time. So for me, it's about dividing the scope, making sure that you've got your vision for your in-house and very clear on what your in-house model needs to be, and creating a workforce around that. And use your agency partners. They've been doing it for, 100 odd years. They're great at it. There's a reason why agencies exist, but let's use them in the right way. Let's be partners with them. It's not like an or something. It's an art model. So this is a scope which we want to take in-house. This is what we're going to be working on, and here's our partners. And when I say agency partners, that's not just creative agency partners, it's production partners, media partners, because you have to build that ecosystem. You have to have an operating model where you've got your specialists and your SMEs. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a team of people who are either underutilized, because we don't need 100% of everybody in that mix. So I think brands initially started thinking, we take it in-house, it can be a bit cheaper. It's not about that. It's about, how do we get to the root of our business problem a lot faster and clearer, and bringing people, within the business to answer those questions, as opposed to leaning out into third parties.
Yeah, that makes sense. I want to quickly shift back to IHAR. So, we spoke about Philip Morris, and, after that, you sort of started IHAR. What made you start your firm, and, what's it been like running the company? And sort of, at that time, I remember when it was the 1st of January 2016, I went online to register the actual domain for Ziflow. And I still remember it like super, super clearly. Can you just take me through that moment? Because I think that's something that really sticks with founders.
Yeah, I think it was like I'd done it, I'd built it now, and obviously there's always room for improvement. I'm not saying it was like perfect or anything, but we built it, and there was a few people who I brought into a presentation with my colleagues in Switzerland, and I was like here's my point of view on it. And if you don't believe me, here's some other people, Julia being one of them, and then also a very good friend of mine now called Matt O'Brien, who at the time was at the in-house agency for Three. And he said, "Oh, I'd love to do some of the stuff that you've done, Emma. Like, how do you do it?" Because he was a creative and I'm, typically a suit. So we started talking. He's like, "Oh, could you help me do this? And could you help me do that?" And that's where I thought, actually, there's a lot of in-houses which are run by ECDs. And I love ECDs. I've loved them, don't get me wrong. But operational rigor is not necessarily, what their job is meant to be. And that's where I started picking holes a little bit in, I was talking to Matt about it. It's like, what is the gaps? Where do you feel like you could do some extra resource? And it was really around operations and ecosystems. And that's when I thought there's got to be a gap in the market. So I did a little bit of research and looked into like all other in-houses and how they're set up and how they ran. And back to my hypothesis, it was very much they're run by the creative function. And that's what I decided. If I'm going to do something, I might as well do it now. I'd set up this great model. I'd learned a lot as well. But I realized that I've always wanted to do something on my own. And now is the time. It wasn't about setting up another creative agency. It's about setting up an agency which solves a business problem. We could get in, build out an operating model, stand up a team, look at the talent, do the audit, basically do everything I'd done in my current role, but condense it and give it to somebody, get it and fix it and get out. And I thought, I don't know, there's that many people who have done that. And also there's not that many people, obviously there are people in the industry who do what I do, but who's actually worked in-house and also worked in agency side and understands the dynamic between Adland agencies versus brand. And I think there's a lot of people when you're working in advertising agencies, you go, "Oh, the client doesn't know this and the client doesn't know that." Well, actually, the client knows a lot and they really are, smart, great people. And I think they just need to make sure they've got somebody who can build the thing and put the world together. And I didn't really see anybody doing that. And that's when I had a similar moment to you where I came home and I bought my domain name, I think at 3 a.m. in the morning. It's like, what am I going to call it? Yeah. What's this thing going to be? I try to find out some fancy titles. And I was like, look, I'm just going to do what it says on the tin. It's going to be an in-house reviewing agencies, so I called it in-house agency review and then bought every.co.uk, .org and whatever else goes with it. And I want it to be quite self-explanatory. I think I'm quite a straightforward talking person and I wanted my business to reflect my attitude, which was I come in, I can help you shape it, help you fix it. I'm going to review what you've got on the table and then give you recommendations. Not like I know everything. It's more like, here's my point of view. Here's what I've learned along the way. And this is, how we can support you. So yeah, it was a learning that I'd taken and talking to somebody in the industry thought, could you help me do that? Obviously I couldn't moonlight. I had a full-time job. So that's when I decided, yeah, let's do it now or never, left and set it up.
Yeah. It's always a scary moment to go out on your own, if you will, and to do this and have faith that, yeah, you can add value experience, but there will be work. You'll be able to get paid at the end of the day.
Oh, well, yeah, that's exactly that. As a founder, I'm doing everything from managing PR and then, doing my new business meetings. I'm doing timing plans with a client right now. It's not, a founder-led business, as you can probably imagine yourself. It's everything. So I get involved in all things. Obviously, having Julia on board with me now is absolutely fantastic. But it's the first 6, 7, 9 months was all about getting our name out there. Like, what do we stand for? What's our vision? And our vision's really, really clear. It's, we believe in the hybrid model. We want agencies to thrive. We want brands to survive. We want to put you guys together, build an ecosystem so it works fluidly, and then also build the right team, the tech stack, and everything else that facilitates that, because you can have the best tools ever, but if you've not got the right vision and the right I guess, people within the business, then it will fall over. And that's where we've got like that end-to-end proposition where we can do the operational like process piece, but then we can find the talent, we do all of it together, and then also look at the tech stack, because tech is absolutely critical, with automation, and obviously AI, can't not say that word in this conversation. It's key to be able to be fluid and fluent in all of that space. And having done it before, I wanted to take all the knowledge that I'd had and bring it out. And very passionate with small brands as well, when I help like startups build that model, and small brands right the way through to big global.
Yeah, so you just mentioned something there. You've got this term like we build it, we fill it, and that's sort of through, I don't know if it's two companies or through just your consultancy, but how does the interplay work between the consulting piece and then the recruitment, and how do you feel like gives IHAR sort of an edge that others might be missing?
Yeah, I mean, we're in a very particular famous network agency right now, and we're working on a very large snacking brand, and it's huge. And we needed to go in there and build the ops model, look at ways of working, and then as you're building that, you also understand the culture in the agency, but also the brand. And having two propositions to our business, which is the consultancy side for operation perspective, and then also the talent. We get a vibe. We understand the type of people that they need. We know the culture of fit. We know the skill set. I'm sitting in front of the client every day. And I'm going to say the client, my agency clients, I'm the actual agency's client. So we understand it. So it's a much faster way of me being able to find the right talents and put them into that piece of business. So us going in there as an IHAR business to help with ops, and then to fill them with the right people, it's quite sweet, really, and quite quick for me to solve, because I know exactly the type of people they want. And then me and Jay, my other business partner, we help find them the right talent. And talent is, it can take a long time. And when you've got a global client needing to be stood up like yesterday, you've not got the time to get it wrong. So yeah, I think with what we offer is we do the building, and we can fill it, but fill it with the right people. It's easy to fill with the wrong, but we've got that insight. We're close to the business. We're close to the agency. We know the scope. We know how it's all working, and we can find the right people to make that like client model work.
Yeah, so in terms of the people side of it, I mean, I think I've spoken to quite a few people on the pod, and culture and people come up a lot, and they're so critical in making this work and be successful. I mean, we're all very obsessed with metrics. Yeah, how do you sort of figure out, what's a gut feel about a candidate? What does sort of great look like, beyond someone's experience and their CV?
Yeah. I mean, you always have a look at, where they've worked, and certain agencies, if you've done your time there, they're good and they've got grit and they can handle it. Chemistry, I always, as basic as it sounds, for me, it's a gut thing. It really is. I mean, I've met so many people over the years. I'm a quiet services person myself. You just kind of do sometimes just know whether they're going to fly in front of a client or be able to handle, like, if it's a volume led business. So I think culture fit, but also it's about, like, I like people with the entrepreneurial spirit, who are thought leaders, who are going to challenge the brief, not people who are just going to take the brief because they've been told to do so. I think anybody in the space that we're operating in right now, it's highly competitive, and unless you can really add value and give something new and challenge the brief, challenge the client, challenge the agency, you're just another person doing what you're being told to do. And for me, I want people who are like thought leaders, entrepreneurship. You've got that mindset where they're always thinking about what's next and what can we do better. And I like people who are going to really like try and be better than me, which isn't quite hard actually. But I want somebody who's like, I always believe in hiring people who are better than you, not hiring, below you. So yeah, chemistry is critical, personality, eager, entrepreneurial, and people who can, think about what's going to happen 2 months down the line, not the next day, for me is critical to hire.
Yeah. And the other thing that's interesting, because you're working with different clients, I mean, they obviously have their own cultures and how they work. So, I'm hiring for Ziflow. I know what our culture is. It sort of stems from the founder. Like you said, it's your vision. The business sort of operates in terms of your values in a way? Even though Ziflow has values, I think a lot of people know my personality now, but how do you sort of work out what do you pie then for the culture of the clients, and how do you figure that out?
Well, from the in-house culture, like,
Yeah,
or
yeah. So in-house brands, yeah. So how do you, because that's quite a key thing, I think, sometimes, because the cultures would be so different from a Specsavers to a Philip Morris, right? So yeah.
yeah, the culture is it's so different depending on which you brand. You know, you've got small startups who are, you know, scrappy and agile, make
Yeah.
decisions quickly, and then you've got the bigger brands which will take a lot longer. So I think the culture is important. I think it's the vision, like what do you want your in-house to be? If everyone's got a plan where you go, okay, we are here now, but we want to be over here, you can then cast the right talent depending on where you want to go. I mean, we all want the best in class in our business, of course we do, but you've got to get the right people. You can run the shop floor now, but then also can build a business with you and can be your lieutenants that you're moving forward with. So it's important to identify, a skill set and also a culture fit, but people who are going to be able to help you achieve that vision and move you to the next stage.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about someone wants to start. They don't have an in-house agency at a brand. So let's say someone's thinking getting this started at the brand. What is a top piece or piece of advice that you would give them?
It's similar to my last response, really. Is like work out what you want long term and work out where you are now and where you want to be, because the in-house scope changes and grows. And one of my biggest, I guess, pain points with in-house is they get treated as like an all-you-can-eat buffet. It's like, oh, it's in-house, it's
Mm.
free, we can have it. I think it's about setting yourselves up for success and being really clear on, you know, what does a great in-house look like? What type of scope do we want to be making? Do we want to be doing BAU, or do we want to be doing, you know, the explore type of creative work, which is all the, you know, creative proposition? So starting well, it's like any brief. If you start well, it hopefully should normally always end well. So be really clear on what you want to achieve, what is the vision, and you know what type of work you want to be making, and what do you want to be proud of. Like, is it the execution stuff? Is it the strategic stuff? Just have a really clear plan of action on where you want to be in a couple of years' time, because that will then be the backbone and the framework of the type of talent that you're going to be hiring, the type of technology that you're going to be needing, and also the type of, I guess, culture that you're going to be eventually creating. If you're going to have an entrepreneurial approach to your in-house, you're going to need those people who are sitting around a table arguing with each other to challenge everything. So yeah, be really clear, try and set yourself up for success from day one by having a vision and then working towards that vision.
Who's the first hire if you starting an in-house creative agency? Who would be the first hire for that sort of initiative?
Operations, 100%.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
honestly, like people think, oh, it's go and get, you know, the ECD with 20 Cannes Line awards or whatever. It isn't. I would have my project management operations, whatever, you know, title it is of the month, get your project management and get those lieutenants lined up. I mean, that's exactly what I had to do. And it's in the PMI role. I needed my head of traffic, my head of operations, you know, and also strategy. Strategy
Yeah.
is so key. A lot of in-houses, I think there's like some like 53%, I think was the last number I remember reading, don't have in-house strategy. Now I get
What
why.
is what okay, what does the strategy person do?
Yeah, so obviously a strategist will come up with like the consumer insight, which lands to the creative proposition. So they will like
Okay.
dig around within the audience and also in the market. So you end up with an audience truth, a product truth, and then a market truth. Unless you've got insights into those three buckets, whatever work you create isn't going to solve the exam question. You might be putting work out there which you think everybody wants, but unless you've really got truth within that insight, it's hard to get to. So a lot of brands will have obviously the marketing department and they'll have an insights team, and they'll talk about, oh, well, we know that we've got ABC ones and we know that people prefer good. They're the what. And then your creatives, because they can only make great work if they know what they're writing work to.
Okay, that's interesting. And it's so you were talking about the market truth, the audience truth, and there was another one. Sorry, I missed the other one.
Product truth.
Product truth. Okay. So what would they normally uncover?
Yeah.
Uh
So like the audience truth is like, what does the audience want? What's the insight? You know, what's everybody needing right now? You know, do they want to move away from, I don't know, I'm allowed to say Diet Coke to Coke Zero. Like, what is the insight which is driving consumer behavior? What is pushing that? The market truth is like what's happening in the category. What's the competitor set look like? What's everybody coming into market with? So what does that set look like? And then also the actual product truth is like, why should I buy this product? What's the reason to believe? And to unpack that, you need to have somebody who is a strategic mindset to be able to dig into that. So when the creatives are coming up with the big ideas, like, okay, I know why Bob wants to buy it because the insights is this. I know the category has got a challenge because of this, and then I know what the product truth is. And that's where the strategist really comes in, is like they unpack all of that insight to create what we call in the industry a single-minded proposition. And that proposition is just like a one-liner, which we use as the creative platform that the creative teams can then jump off and come up with big ideas. Without that platform, you end up going round and round in circles. And also the creative work becomes very subjective. There's nothing to critique the work against. And if you've not got that one page brief, which is like, this is what the audience wants and this is what the market wants and this is what the product stands for, it becomes subjective, and then nobody can make a decision on what the work should be that you put out there.
Sounds like something even B2B companies need, because I don't see it in company, but lots of B2B companies just don't have that. I mean, we always talk about ICP and etc., but we don't actually dig into these truths. And I think that's actually very, very insightful.
A lot of the campaigns you'll have seen like are made famous or have done really well, it's because they resonate. And, it's got to mean something to you. It's got to mean something to the audience. If it's not, it's just another piece of content that no one really cares about. So, yeah. Hire strategists and hire SMOPS people when you set up your in-house, because it'll fall apart otherwise.
Yeah, brilliant. And in terms of, so I mean, let's talk a little bit about tooling. I know there's the whole AI piece, but in terms, okay, so you've got your ops, you've got your strategists. So let's now say you've got your creative team. Where do you go now? Because there's obviously process and systems. How do you sort of approach those two areas?
Yeah, again, it depends on the maturity of the business and what the volume is, but having a really slick, I guess, easy to use tech model. And that is like, it could be anything from just a workflow tool. For me, understanding scope is critical, because scope informs how much resource you need in the business. So if you can't get visibility of how much work you're going to be making, how you're going to resource against it. So tool number one is a resource management tool. That could be a Monday.com or a Workfront, whatever it is. But that then allows you to go, right, we've got this amount of scope coming in over the next 6 months. This week it's got busier. Right, we're going to need more creatives. We're going to need more designers. Workflow is critical. You need to be able to see what's coming down the pipe. If you can't, it causes chaos, and then you're in execution mode and everyone's, running around. So that workflow tool for me is really, really key. And that's one of the first things I put in when I was running an in-house. And then once you've got that in play, then you use it to be able to take briefs in, and then you just start building it up. So it depends on the size of your business and how much investment you can put in, because starting, building out a huge ecosystem can be costly, but it's hugely beneficial. But workflow, absolute number one for me.
Yeah. And in terms of the owner of the systems, is it the creative ops person, or is someone else owning those systems? Because I think that's always something that can be a bit tricky.
Yeah, you want your creative ops. I mean, before creative ops was kind of the title, it was project management. They're the people who own that. And your head of creative ops would be driving it. And they would be the people who would be going, right, client, how much scope we got coming in next week? What's needed? And they would own that tool. So whether it's a project manager or an ops person, it's somebody who can sit down on a weekly basis and get visibility of the scope, visibility of the deliverables, resource management, again, critical as part of that workflow.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about AI. So, it's obviously...
not talk about AI.
Yeah. So you've got a pretty pragmatic view on it. So, embrace it, just get on with it. And you suggest automating like BBAU, your business as usual, which I think is really good at how you look at that. But you can just give me a bit more insight into that and the audience, and how you see using AI, utilizing it for that purpose, and where else do you think it'll be going?
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic. It's great, but there's a lot of people running away from it, or like, not so much running away, they're criticizing it. I think you've probably seen some of my stuff I put out before, but we have these hype cycles. We have, social media, and then that's going to kill TV. And I just think it's about like we go with it and we embrace it, and it's a great thing. I think automation is critical for volume and also for large brands who have got a lot of content to produce. Again, my days in a PMI, automation was key for us. We don't need to go analog and get all of our banners resized and take the long, process in order to do that. So decide on what your AI strategy is going to be. Like, what do you need it for? A lot of people say, oh, I need AI, but you actually go, why do you need it? What do you need it for? And also, you've probably been using it already. You just don't really know about it. So it goes back to the scope question of like, what's your scope? What type of work are you making? And then deploy the right tools depending on where you are. I think, automation tools, perfect. BAU. Why would you get a human to do it when a machine can do it? Do it and save money. And then you can use your money to be further upstream and buy your talent, which can really, really do like more of the groundbreaking creative stuff, which I guess an AI tool, dare I say, can't do it. I'm going to probably regret saying this on screen in
No,
about.
no, I think you're right to an extent, because it's all trained on existing knowledge. It helps get some of the creative juices flowing, but does it come up with something? It feels like it's brand new when you prompt it, but I think you're right. I think it needs, that's where the investment needs to go, is the upfront thinking, because that's where the innovation is going to happen.
Well, it goes back to the insight piece we just touched on. Where'd you get a human truth from, or where'd you get a market truth from? Like, it needs to come from human craft. And I think unless you've got that human in that part of the strategic part of the brief, then a lot of the work's going to end up looking the same. It's going to spit out the same stuff. And if you want to be, even if you're just not even a challenger brand, if you want to do things differently, it's going to take like not even a wacky idea, but somebody's go, oh, I never thought about that. That's not going to come out of AI. AI is great. Like, use it for the right channels, use it for the right roles within your marketing mix. But if you want to be different and, stand out, then I don't think AI is going to do that for you. But I'll
Are you
probably get.
seeing a big push with your existing customers in terms of adopting AI, or is it still very much, hey, let's just get the in-house creative team and the agencies working really well, and still really just table stakes?
There's a lot of adoption. There's huge amounts of it. I mean, again, like, some of them don't realize they are using AI already, even just the
Yeah.
way the briefs are being written, that's AI. Can you write me a brief on whatever it is? That's AI. I think it's to what extent they're using it. I think some brands are probably more braver and want to use it a lot more than creatives, but I don't think it's going to replace creatives. I think brands will take it and use it for the best part of where they are in that scope of work. So yeah, there's a maturity level with AI, like anything. There's the early adopters who've been doing it for quite a while, and then there's people who are now coming to the table who actually want to get involved in it. I think there's a role to be done of like demystifying what it actually is and what it can do. And I think that's starting to be broken down a little bit more into normal common language. So marketeers are understanding of its functionality and where it's played best. But, creative origination and, big thought leadership, can we keep the humans on that bit? And then let's use
Yeah.
AI for further downstream, like BAU, resizing, quick out the door content. Yeah, crack on, you guys do that. But can we have the humans upstairs thinking about things which, can't come out of a tool?
No, I think that's spot on. So, Emma, looking back on your journey from employee to founder, what is the one piece of advice you'd give to someone currently working in an agency or, on the client side, who has an idea to start a company, but is just too scared to take that step?
I think get as much experience. I mean, I'm glad, people said to me, you've been in a few agencies, and I'm so glad I did, because if I'd been in one place, I wouldn't have learnt a lot of the different experiences and different ways, the different agencies. So get some experience, really understand how different agencies operate. one is definitely different from the other. WPP and publicists and independents, they operate so differently. And I'm so glad I did that. And then I went client side and I saw that side of the fence. So, again, get as much experience, suck it all up. And I think just be really agile and like, don't be afraid to challenge. I think, when you're a bit younger, I remember me going, oh, is it all right if we say this? And actually, as I've got a bit older, I've gone, do you know what? That is my point of view. And stuff it. If no one likes it, then that's fine. And that's my point of view. And, it is a point of view. It's not right or wrong. So I think, get as much experience, like 360 rounded experience, be brave, be agile and always be learning, always be looking at what's coming down the line, what's happening, what's the industry changing. And, my brain doesn't switch off. And sometimes I get exhausted myself, but I'm always thinking, oh, we could do this, we could do that.
For hyper sleep.
Yeah.
If it's not what's for sleeping?
I'm always thinking about something, and I think that's what excites me. So, and I think also you've got to do something which you love. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I love creative operations, and that wasn't like when I was, what do you want to be? I want to be in creative operations. But I think what it is, I love like solving puzzles and like problems. I'm a real fixer. And I've always liked working on clients which have had a business challenge and I can go away, figure out how to do it. And for me now, I'm in my dream job where I can go in, fix an operational mess and talent and put it all together and go, here you go, in a nice pretty bow, off you go. So I think find something you love to do, get as much experience and be brave.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I think it's like, we had another business before this, Proof HQ, got acquired by Workfront, which I know you know pretty well, and then we started Ziflow. But I just did a LinkedIn post on it because Proof HQ got acquired, and I thought that was going to be my happiest moment. But it was the most, I don't know, it just felt like, it wasn't depressing. It was just like I felt super lost, and I realized this actually. I love solving customer problems, helping them, and knowing, okay, you deploy Ziflow, they use it and they're getting value from it. And it's just great. And I think being able to do it for multiple clients, not just one, you're an employee at one company, being able to do it across many, many customers, there's just something about that's just, it's hard to replicate in a full-time role.
Yeah, I know people say something like, if you ever got like bought out, which I'm like, do you know what? I think I'd always work because I just can't help myself. I just love, going in, and my scope I'm the worst like account man really because my scope creep gets bigger and bigger because I'll sit with the clients and I'm like, well, actually, have you thought about this? And we can do it like that. So yeah, I just, I'm a real business, like, I guess, fixer and like seeing, how to, solve the bigger picture, but also get in the weeds. And I think that's one of the key things about our business is like, the word consultant comes up, but we're not. We're PMs when we want to be, and then we're strategic when we're not. So, wherever we are, we want to get into that business right now and go, okay, what's on fire? Let's sort your shop floor out so you guys can come up for a bit of air and work out where you want to be in the next 5 years. But right now, you're not going to get to the next 5 years because you're going to get burnt out working like this. So we want to go in there and put the fires out now, fix it to give everybody a bit of breathing space to be able to deliver that bigger vision that they're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I think what you give customers there is the confidence, because I think often if you running a business, you're saying, okay, I think this is what we should do. But then if you have someone like you come in and you're like, yes, that is what you should do, or it sort of lines up. I think it just gives customers that confidence. And I think that is very valuable, especially when you've got so many different options in terms of what to do.
I know. I think that's, it's true because we don't want to sit there and tell everybody what to do or like we're better. It's not like that. It's like we've actually been there and got the t-shirt. I've sat in that chair where we've gone, oh, we need to build this in-house. Where do we start? Or the client scope is like off, like how do we bring it all together? Running global clients agency side and then being a client myself and then putting it all together.
It's the cheat codes. You have the cheat code to the game. Yeah.
And I was say we're in a network right now where we're with big snacking clients and they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, we did it. We're not trying to tell you how to suck eggs, but like just throw it to us, we'll do it, and then you can get on to the next brief or the next big client that you've got on.
Nah, it's fantastic. Emma, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. It was a great conversation.
It's great. Thanks so much for having me. And as I say, I'm talking about my best subject, which is ops.
Yeah, I'm sharing insights from around the marketing, tech, and operations industries on how marketing and creative teams can get more done together.